let's look at some of our life choices that have brought us to this point. So you really like shitty old cars. I like shitty old cars. Just about everybody I know likes shitty old cars. I know a lot of people like shitty old trucks. Sometimes I like shitty old trucks even more than shitty old cars. Shitty old, that's what I'm saying. Everybody likes shitty old shit. So you really want one. So you go out and you buy one. You decide that you really like 72 Dodge Darts. That's your gig. You love a Dodge Dart. So you go on the old face crack and look on Marketplace, because that's rules of the world. Nobody lists on Craigslist or nothing anymore. Everything's on the face sack now. So you go on the old face sack and you can't find a Camaro. So you buy yourself a 66 Mustang Fastback. You go borrow a truck and a trailer to go pick up your new Duster. You get your truck and your trailer that you borrow from your second cousin-in-law's brother's uncle, and you're gonna go pick up your shitty old car. Well, you rewire the lights on the trailer because they don't work, and you cut the wires to the brakes because they just keep blowing fuses. Now you're ready to go pick up your old truck. So you're out of there, you pick her up, you bring her home. You tear it all apart. You go through buyer's remorse for a couple of days. Then you decide, all right, well, you might as well get into it. So you go out there and you got the thing ripped apart. You just throw all your hardware into a bucket, so you never know what the hell went to what, or how anyone went back together again. But who gives a shit? You clean all the paint off of it. Well, you got a shitty old Barracuda sitting there. So whether you do it yourself, you get it done. You get it all welded up. You burn the shit out of yourself. You go blind for a few hours at a time with welding flash, etc., etc., etc. Burn the shit out of the inside of your ears with spatter. You get it all welded up. You blow holes through stuff. You patch over top of rust. You whatever the hell you do it. So you get it all to that point. Then you do your body work all over it. Same thing. You cough up Bondo dust for 3 weeks. You drag green boogers out of your nose. You know, the whole bit. You go through that all. You get it all body worked up. You get some primer in it. You have some respiratory illnesses from sucking up primer for a while. That's the way she goes. That's the way the old cookie bounces. So then you get her to this point here. Now, once you got your old Cougar in this point here, through your primer, when you're doing your filler work and stuff, before this, so just about everybody out there that wants a hand job because they're so cool in life says that they don't ever get any pinholes in their filler work. I call bullshit. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of... The guys who come the closest to that are the guys who would do their filler work and then they would cover the entire thing with like a high dollar finish putty. Well, you just filled all your pinholes now, didn't you? You dick. So anyways, I don't do that. In fact, as I'm doing my filler work, when I do get some pinholes, I just leave them. Because you're just gonna screw it up trying to fix them. Once you get something straight and level when you're blocking out, say your filler work, once you get that straight and level, your roughest grit first shot at that is probably the straightest it's gonna get. Any further dicking around with it after that, you're just chewing holes in it. Case in point, pinholes. So you got a panel, it's really good. You've done nice work on it. You got some pinholes in it. So you mix up a little bit of sploop and you put her on some of your pinholes. You let her dry up, you go in and you block her off. Well, now on your primer surface, or on your filler, sorry, you just put another layer of filler on top. So you block back and forth and back and forth. So you block your filler over top of your pinhole, but you're also blocking your filler beside your pinhole and beside the filler you put on top of your pinhole. So you're still digging that down while you're trying to level this. So what you wind up doing, can you see what I'm doing there? That's what you wind up doing. I don't know the phrase for that. I don't know, that's what you wind up doing. You got a high spot and then you're gonna have a low ring around it. Well, you just bitched up your nice straight filler trying to fix that pinhole. So what I do after the fact, and after it's in primer, I mean, if it's ridiculous and the thing looks like old goddamn Granny Clampett shot it with a shotgun and it's peppered with pinholes, well then just coat the whole damn thing and just call it a day and get rid of them. But if you got a few here and there, just leave them. I paused there for effect. Prime it, you'll be able to find them. Here's how I find them in the primer. And I'll explain to you exactly what I do. I'll find them, then I'll give it a little bit of a scritch around them, and then I'll mix up a little bit of putty, and before I block this primer, which is why I give it, I'm looking at a pinhole right here. I'll give that a little scritch with a scratch pad, and I'll mix up some putty, and I'll squeeze it into that pinhole. And then when I block this primer, because you're kind of starting virgin again, well then you'll knock that down because, and the reason that this works is because the body filler is softer than the surface of the primer. So by the time, because the primer skins over, it gets a shell on it, right? It's nice and smooth, it's got a shell on it. So by the time you break through that shell, you're going to have leveled that putty that you got in your little pinhole. And believe me, I've been doing it this way for years, and I ain't joking, it works. By the time you're done, and you can paint it, by the time you're painted, and you can look at that thing a year and a half after it's painted, there was never any pinholes there. So, and the easiest way to find pinholes is I take a little flashlight, my scratch pad, and the pencil, and you take, and if you shine your light just so you'll get a shadow, and you can see that pinhole in the shadow. And then so you can find it, little circle of pencil, because pencil will sand right off of it. So there was one there. There's got to be another one there. So you just go around, and you look in the shadows. Oh, look at that little bugger. Give it a scratch with a scratch pad, circle it with a pencil, you're ready to go. And there's going to be, I'm going to find more. I don't sweat it. A lot of people think that you're a failure. Holy Christ, call your mom and get her to come give you a hug because you suck. Well, I'm not going to tell you that because I don't think that's the case. It's tougher with new fillers to not run into this. Fillers are sold by weight. The solids in a filler, it weighs more than the resins. Older fillers, they would have a little more resin in them. So it's easier to mix it and put it on, and you're not going to get the pinholes in the resin because the pinholes is just, they're pinholes. So anyways, I'm going to go over that, and I'm going to do that to this fender, and then we'll come back, and then I'll show you some more stuff. We started on a dart and ended up on something else, didn't we? This is a dart. Anyway, I'll be back shortly. Okay, let me explain a little. Now it occurred to me as I was taking care of some pinholes that maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense, the procedure. When I do something like this, I don't like to prime and block and prime and block and prime the thing 8 times and block it and sweep up $700 worth of primer off the floor. It just don't make no sense to me. It don't. I know that in the infamy of the custom car world, that's what it takes to make a nice car. Well, that's not what it takes. That's just what they do. If you got to do that, then you missed something along the way, in my opinion. What my gig is I'll bodywork it, and when I'm happy with my panel, then I'll prime it. And I'll use a good high solids primer. Generally, I think 99% of them are urethane based. I'll give it 3 good heavy coats of primer. And in all honesty, that 3 coats of primer probably winds up about as thick as like a potato chip box. I don't know how thick that is. That's about how thick it gets. Is however thick a potato chip box is, you got an old Dutch layer of primer on there, let's put it that way. So then once you got that on there, then the way I do is I'll start. My few initial strokes are going to be with 120 grit, and that's going to knock the skin and the texture off. Once the skin and the texture is off, I'll bump it up to 180 grit. And then really any leveling that you have to do in your primer to get that final, you're going to do with the 120. Then the 180 is just going to carry on. And then at the 180, that's where I stop. What I do next is once I'm happy with the panel in 180 and it's where I want it, then I will take this same primer, mix up a little bit of this primer, and I'll over reduce it. So this primer mixes 4:1, and generally I go 4:1 to maybe a half for the initial prime. When I put my final coat of primer on it, it'll be mixed 4:1 to maybe 1.5. Not 4:1 to 2, because that's too thin. 4:1 to 1, 4:1 to 1.5. And that'll give it, it'll reduce it out a little more, and it'll lay on the panel nice. So then that one final coat of primer will lay on the panel and it'll be smooth. At that point, that's going to be about the same as my painted surface. Once I've done that, then I'll go to a block, that big orange block that I've demonstrated, with some 320 on it, and I'll block that coat of primer out with 320. Then I'll get the old digit and some 400, hand sand it in 400, and that's it. So I guess in essence it does get primed twice, but not two full filler coats. I've seen videos titled How to Apply Filler Over Primer. In my opinion, just me, the title should be Don't Apply Filler Over Primer. They're two different products. Primers are urethane-based primers, fillers are polyester-based fillers. It's like I said before, don't keep on stacking. You know, don't stack wool over flannel, over silk, over, you know, a pair of socks. Like don't do it. Stick with your one, like your filler work, that would be considered a substrate. Then your primer work, that would be considered a mid coat. Then your base coat and your clear, that's your top coat. There's a reason. I mean, that's the hierarchy of what happens. You got your substrate, then you got a mid coat, then you got a top coat. You don't got a substrate, then a mid coat, then a substrate, then maybe weld a patch over top of your primer. Maybe you could do that. You could stick some steel on top of that, and then more filler on top of that, and then maybe throw a coat of clear on it, and then some more filler. Don't do that. Just cut it out. And it wastes a whole lot of time. So once we get to this point, I do not hit it with air tools anymore, as you can see by the hardware we got out here. So this has got 120 on it, as I said. Can you see that? I'm sanding it. As you sand that, and in your few initial strokes, you're going to see what you got underneath it. Because anywhere where it's high, you can see that my door is sitting a little higher than the fender here because it's knocking it off there and not there. What are you going to do? But you're going to see that it's taking the texture off your high spots first and your low spots. And I mean, like, this is an extreme example, right? Because a couple of strokes and this will all be evened out. But this is just, so if you're sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding, and you got a hunk of primer that's not being touched, well, that's a low spot. You're not good at touching. So yeah, start that out with some 120. You watch your body lines. Because you come this far, you don't want to scrub your body lines off. And as you're doing this, the spots of putty that you've put on over top of your pinholes, 2 strokes and they'll be gone. Like there's a spot right there. It's gone. It's gone. It's out of here. Next after that is you'll go up to 120, or 180, sorry. Like I said before, these fenders, they curve in a little bit. I use this on the flats, and I do have one of these, and if you'll see, that's not straight. So on these curves, you can lean in on it and get it to follow your curves. But anyways, once you get your 120 where you want it, this is what I use for a guide coat. It's a powdered guide coat you can buy with a little applicator. It's black. I'll put that on over top of my 120. Then I'll sand it with 180 till it's gone. And then, yeah, you should be there. And if you're not there, well, then you got more work to do. Okay. I hate Dodge fenders. See how much that moves? Can you see that? Take that. But so anyways, for the point of argument, a little bit of that. I like Velcro paper. And you know, you don't got to use, like a lot of people spray paint on there for a guide coat. You can spray paint on for a guide coat. You can do whatever you want to do for a guide coat. You can put brown sugar on there. I don't care. Go in and get some of your wife's makeup. Whatever you want to do. As long as it's something that shows up against your primer, that's all you're looking for a guide coat. Again with the 120, sticker on this guy, and now this guy, if you apply pressure, you can get it to follow your curve. One thing I don't get, now here's something that comes to mind. I'll take the paper off for this example. You see a lot of, well, I see a lot of videos, pictures, you know, whatever, of people using all these high-dollar plastic blocks and shit that are coming up. Now the idea of using a board or something, and the whole idea of this program is, as you're sanding your surface, your situation hits the high spots, shaves them down until the high spots sink in, and, you know, until you shave them down so they're parallel with the low spots. That's how you level your surface out. That's how you get a nice reflection. So you want something that bridges it to do that. So you take something like this chaw that you would sand thusly. Yes, does that make sense? Lengthwise. A little bit across, but lengthwise. I don't know how many times you see people taking these blocks, something like this, and then sand them like this here. I mean, you see pictures and you see videos all over the place. Sand like that. Not like this. Like that. Why did you buy this? If all you're going to use is that. Christ, you might as well take your shoe off. Sand it like that. I mean, I just I don't get it. I don't understand. And I've seen it so many times where they take a big long board, turn it up sideways, and they sand it on the skinny. Is it me? I know I got problems, but is that me? I don't know. I don't get it. Don't make no sense. But anyways, that's what I do. Like I said, from here, I would wipe on some guide coat, dustly, then I hit it with 180 until that guide coat's gone. Like I said, when I'm happy, one more piss coat of primer over it, and you're done. I've done a lot of cars that way. I mean, oh, for the love of Christ. Everything I do isn't always going to be on the high dollar TV shows and shit, but I have done some pretty nice stuff that come out pretty good. I did a green Cougar a couple of years ago that went on the Barney Johnson auction down there in the States, and the thing went for well over 200 grand. I don't know how far over 200, 240, 260 the guy wound up paying, I don't know. Maybe I've never looked it up. The guy that owns the car sent me the links to it, but I didn't really look at it because I was sick of the car. But, I mean, I don't know. I get it that Barney Johnson, it's not, to me it doesn't set the value of things, but in the same respect, I mean, never mind, whatever. Anyways, that's what I do. That's when you get to this point, that's what you're doing, and as you can tell, you do a whole lot of it, and son of a bitch, like, are you getting me? Jesus, it's one after another. But anyways, I don't know if that helps. Hopefully that helps. I guess the biggest point of this kind of was when you're doing filler work and stuff, it ain't going to be perfect at that point. With the pinholes and whatnot, clean it up at that point, then get here, and there is ways to do it that you don't got to beat yourself in the face with a board with a nail in it as soon as you walk out to the shop. There's this way is what I found that works the best, and it has longevity. It does not come back to haunt you. When you put a little bit of filler into your pinholes there, that is a catalyzed polyester product. Once that product sets, it does not reflow. It's not going to shrink as you put another product over top of it. It's not going to, once it's there, it's there. And as far as your product around your pinhole, well, by the time you're sanding it, you're going to take her all off. I mean, right there, you can't see it, but I could just see the tiniest little blue dot, and that's where the pinhole was. And that blue dot will stay right there. Gone. So that helps you, cool. Again, if it doesn't help you and you think I'm stupid, then just pay me no, never mind. Don't matter to me. I don't give a fat rat's ass I mean, it'd be cool to help you, but if you don't like it, I mean, I can't. I don't like Brussels sprouts. Maybe you like Brussels sprouts. Doesn't mean we gotta fight about it. I guess that's it. A lot of that didn't make any goddamn sense, but whatever. I mean, I'm not a preacher and it's not church. So. See ya.